Can we replicate Elon Musk's success by studying his daily habits? As a peer-reviewed researcher in human behavior, I've explored this question deeply. In today's video, I'll share the most practical aspects of Musk's routine that can instantly boost your productivity. And further on in this video, I'll even share a step-by-step approach to designing your daily routine that Musk himself uses, so be sure to stick around to the end. And the key to Musk's productivity starts with understanding something called the Eisenhower matrix, a well-known productivity tool that helps us visualize our daily activities. As you can see, there are 4 quadrants to this matrix, and we can place every activity in our daily lives into one of these categories. Once we've done so, it allows us to identify areas of low productivity and design a more effective and efficient daily routine. We'll be examining Musk's Eisenhower matrix, and along the way we'll work together to help you draw one out for yourself. As we'll see, if your matrix doesn't look at least a bit like Musk's, you'll probably never be as productive toward your goals as you'd like to be. In order to better understand Musk's Eisenhower matrix and how he designs his routine, we have to understand some fundamentals of human behavior. According to several well-established models in social cognitive theory, for every social outcome there is, and the wild success of Elon Musk is a social outcome, there are 3 variables that actually cause the outcome. The first one is the environment. This includes, in Musk's case, who he connected with, such as investors at the exact right time he did, as well as multiple other variables he wasn't in direct control of when he originally launched his business. The second one is cognition. This includes, in Musk's case, his thought patterns and general mental states. And the third one is behavior. And yes, this includes our habits. That being said, what we'll look at then, in order to determine what Musk's Eisenhower matrix looks like, are the 2 of these we can actually measure and control: his mental states and daily routines. The first of these 2 variables we'll analyze is his daily habits. So unless you actually know Elon Musk personally, it's hard to collect data from him directly. So then the next best sources to look at would be publicly available interviews of Musk, his tweets and other online postings, and also biographies written about him. Based on all of the above, it's very clear Musk makes heavy use of the 4th quadrant of the Eisenhower matrix, the urgent and not important quadrant. You could call this quadrant the quadrant of delegation. Essentially, ask yourself, what tasks or activities are you doing yourself that could be automated or given to another person to do? Could a family member help you do a chore instead of you? Could you get groceries delivered instead of shopping for them? Could you hire a virtual assistant to help you coordinate certain daily tasks? Importantly, Musk doesn't put every activity he possibly can into this quadrant. So then, what does he put into this quadrant, and what does he leave out?
I think a lot of people think I must spend a lot of time with media or on businessy things, but actually almost all my time, like 80% of it, is spent on engineering and design. So it's developing next generation product. That's 80% of it.
Did you catch the key takeaway here? He raises an important point. Musk actually delegates business operations. Granted, he's probably very savvy about business, but he also knows that he can't be good at everything. Instead, in other interviews, he's described himself as a T-shaped person, having a shallow knowledge of a lot of areas, but very deep knowledge of one specific area. And that area seems to be engineering and design. So then, what does that tell us about other aspects of his Eisenhower matrix, and more importantly, how you can design yours? Well, given that Musk also reportedly works anywhere from 80 to 120 hours per week, we know he's not investing a lot of his time on those 4th quadrant tasks, but instead more time on quadrant 2, the important but not urgent quadrant. Because Musk delegates what he is either 1, not good at, or 2, can't add the most value to, he has more time freed up to do more and more intense activity in the areas of his strengths. And this is something most of us get wrong. What are you currently working hard doing that you know someone else could do better than you, and probably in less time? A good example for me is editing. It used to take me more than 12 hours of my time just to edit my videos, and they would end up being of lower quality than I wanted them to be anyway. Once I hired an editor though, I instantly got 12 hours back that I could invest in doing the activities I'm much better at: research, scripting, etc. So take out a sheet of paper and start brainstorming. What are you incredible at? What are you not so good at? Then start adjusting the activities inside your own Eisenhower matrix. The key to being extra effective in this second quadrant seems also to be time blocking, or allocating fixed amounts of time on our calendar for specific activities, which Musk is great at. Reportedly, he schedules out every 5 minutes of his day. That may be too intense for some people, but I know from my own experience how much I benefit from time blocking. I find it especially useful because if and when unexpected events arise, such as a family member getting sick or something else like that, I can simply move the block to a different day or time. If you have executive function issues or ADHD, however, this might not be realistic, but we'll discuss some strategies shortly that work for essentially everyone, so stick around. So then, what about the other two quadrants? Where do they fit in here? Well, let's take a closer look at how Musk treats each of them. In the important and urgent category are activities in our lives that are unplanned or unexpected, but which are extremely important. To give some extreme examples, think of getting an eviction notice, getting served court papers, having an accident that requires hospitalization, etc. Things in this category, although they might not always be so extreme, will eventually happen. But in Musk's case, because he has put as much as possible into quadrants 2 and 4, when situations do arise in quadrant 1, he can more effectively meet those challenges because he has both the time and the mental bandwidth to. Musk also makes a habit of putting as much as humanly possible into the third quadrant too, which we can think of as the delete quadrant. And this makes a huge impact.
We tend to remember with sometimes a jarring level of pain where we deleted something that we subsequently needed. Yeah. And so people will remember that one time they forgot to put in this thing 3 years ago, and that caused them trouble. And so they overcorrect, and then they put too much stuff in there and overcomplicate things. So you actually have to say, no, we're deliberately going to delete more than we should. So that we're putting at least 1 in 10 things.
So in other words, Musk is deliberately deleting as many tasks as possible, sometimes painfully so. In fact, he even famously has 6 company rules that are essentially founded on the premise of deleting as much as possible. 1, no large meetings. 2, no long or frequent meetings. 3, don't be afraid to leave meetings when you can no longer add value. 4, no acronyms or jargon. 5, ignore the chain of command. And 6, use common sense when it comes to following company rules. Now, you may not agree with all of these, but the main premise here is that Musk is constantly identifying unproductive activities and then placing them in this third quadrant. And this is crucial for all of us to do. Placing so many activities into this quadrant, we should now see, keeps the number of activities in the first quadrant, urgent and important, to a minimum. According to Stephen Covey, author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, having too many activities pop up constantly in our first quadrant absolutely crushes our productivity, because instead of acting proactively, we are constantly acting reactively, simply reacting to situations and circumstances and putting out fire after fire. So far, how similar to Musk's Eisenhower quadrant is your own Eisenhower quadrant? Well, if you're struggling to get it looking like this, then the second of the 2 variables we're analyzing here, Musk's mental states, might just help. Okay, so is it really possible to understand someone's mental states? Not completely. That being said, we'll simply deduce what we can from the publicly available information and draw some conclusions about how you can hack your own mental states to become more effective at whatever you're pursuing. According to Covey, we should put roles before goals. What he means by this is that our personal standards and values should essentially define and outline what goals we want to be productive about in the first place. If we don't do this, he states, we can have the perfect Eisenhower matrix, but become miserable and burnt out. And for sure, this is completely consistent with theories of identity and social cognitive theory. Whatever you think of Musk's political views or personal views, we have to admit he has a very clear sense of his personal standards, and these help him make his own Eisenhower matrix sustainable for the long term without experiencing burnout. So the key question then is, when you now start to fill out your own Eisenhower quadrant, What personal standards and values are you using to guide this process? Are you using other people's standards and expectations of you? And if you are, how can you avoid this kind of thinking? Who do you have to have a serious talk with in order to truly have your time and values respected? Is it your boss? Your spouse? Your friends? Another aspect that seems to help Musk proactively arrange his Eisenhower matrix is his creative problem-solving ability, which is pretty necessary because, let's face it, this productivity stuff is easier said than done, and we have to find creative ways to make things work. As we discussed before, Musk considers himself to be a T-shaped person, having deep knowledge on one subject and having a shallower knowledge of a large number of other fields. According to a large body of research in this area, having this kind of knowledge allows us to be more creative and see solutions others don't see. And this becomes especially relevant as we're building out our Eisenhower matrix because many situations that pop up in each of these quadrants might seem at times impossible to control or resolve. For example, I'm sure you're struggling to figure out what activities to delete or which ones to put into quadrant 3, and it seems almost impossible to figure out solutions to overcome the craziness you're experiencing in the important and urgent quadrant. Quadrant 1. Well, here's a simple yet powerful fix you can try. Let's say, for example, your obstacle is that you have a sick parent to take care of, plus you have ADHD or anxiety. Doing something as simple as taking out a sheet of paper, listing out all your problems and obstacles on one side, along with several potential solutions on the other side, can help you tremendously. I've personally used this approach for the past few years, and it's never failed me. But what if you need a more comprehensive method for creative problem solving? Well, based on everything we know about Musk, he seems to make heavy use of what's called the scamper method. Each letter in this acronym refers to an individual technique we can use to approach any problem, including the problems we face in quadrant 1, the important and urgent quadrant, and quadrant 3, the delete quadrant. S here stands for substitute. Let's say you're struggling to find time to work out, which would be an activity we probably would put in quadrant 2, the important but not urgent quadrant. We could look into potentially substituting our commute to work with riding a bike there, thereby simply leveraging our commute time as our exercise time. C stands for combine. Are there 2 or more activities you can combine in your daily routine to create a different result? For instance, if you're struggling to create productive, deep work sessions, would adding ambient music to your session improve your ability to focus? A stands for adapt. Struggling to eat healthier? How about making a simple change to a food you already love, such as using a whole wheat wrap instead of a white flour wrap for those burritos? M stands for modify. If you find yourself waking up fatigued all the time, is there something small you can try changing about your light exposure before bed, or maybe do some light stretching or journaling when you wake up in the morning? P stands for put to another use. If you're struggling to save money, what services or products do you currently spend money on that you could spend on something else that could deliver the same or greater outcome? E stands for eliminate. Simply put, what's busy work you feel simply compelled to do, and which tasks are actually giving you results? Be honest. R stands for rearrange. Is the order in which you're performing your daily tasks helping or hindering your progress? Could doing them in a different order save time, money, or mental energy on your part? Making our own Eisenhower matrix and designing our life in this way is an incremental process and takes consistent experimentation. But if you try 1 or 2 of these at a time, you will definitely see progress. So, will these cognitive factors and behavioral factors we covered here make you a billionaire? Seeing as though there are countless people who practice these same mindsets and habits and aren't billionaires, the answer is clearly no. But will they help you become more effective in the area of your own life you actually want to become more effective in? Most likely yes. If you want to keep leveling up your critical thinking to make a massive impact, not only in your own life, but also in the lives of countless others, then be sure to watch this next video.